All right, we ready?
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. And welcome to the Beaufort Regional Chamber's Lunch and Learn session on November the 18th. Our topic today is apprenticeships, and we have a terrific lineup to kind of walk through a 101 on how you can use apprenticeships as a workforce development tool for your business. Joined today by Nicole Bentley. She's the apprenticeship consultant for Apprenticeship Carolina, supports the Technical College of the Lowcountry, and in addition to a few other technical college systems around the state. With her is Nancy Rosen from Right at Home. She's used apprenticeships in her business. It can kind of give you a perspective as a fellow business owner. And then we also have Shelby Simmons, who's the Allied Health Coordinator at the Technical College of the Lowcountry. The idea of this session is to weave together the way employers can use an apprenticeship program to help build your workforce, particularly your workforce pipeline, and avail yourself of fairly consequential and significant resources that the state and the technical college system have available for you. So without any further setup, I'm going to hand it off to Nicole to start. If everyone would please mute yourselves when you're not speaking. I'll become accustomed to in this Zoom age, so those echoes or backgrounds. So Nicole, if you'll kick us off, and we'll run through before we open up for questions.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ian, and thanks to everyone joining us today. I'm really excited to speak with you all. As Ian said, I am the apprenticeship consultant for the Technical College of the Lowcountry. I also represent Aiken Technical College up in Aiken by Augusta. Excuse me. And this is the first time that the Beaufort region in the Lowcountry has had a dedicated apprenticeship consultant here in the area on the ground. I sit on TCL's campus. I've been a resident of the Beaufort area for the last 6 years, and I've been technically here for the last 10 years. My husband was in the Marine Corps, and he still works for the Marine Corps as a defense contractor. So I know the area well, and I am very excited to be on staff with Apprenticeship Carolina to help kind of get the word out about what we're doing and what this possibility is and what it can look like for companies here in the region. So I really appreciate the Chamber giving me this opportunity to be the presenter today for the Lunch and Learn. And without further ado, I have a lovely PowerPoint to go through. I promise it won't be boring. But Ginger, if you'll turn the host over to me so I can share my screen.
You've got it.
I see it. Thank you. Hopefully this will show now. It's not. Okay, 1 second. I'm going to share my whole. One second, everyone. It's not pulling up my PowerPoint. Of course, Murphy's Law, right? Let's close out everything but that. There we go. Okay. Can everyone see my screen now? Okay, great. So Apprenticeship Carolina. Apprenticeship Carolina was formed in 2007. Prior to 2019, we used to be under the Division of Economic Development, and we broke off in 2019 to become our own organization, but we are under the South Carolina Technical College System umbrella. We still work very closely with the Ready SC program, with the E-Zone program, which some employers might be familiar with. And then, of course, we continue to work with the technical colleges through credit programs and continuing education programs to bring apprenticeship options to employers. We see ourselves as a comprehensive solution. So what does that mean? Some of you may have heard of ReadySC. ReadySC tends to be a quick training option for employers. So for example, if a company comes in, say a manufacturer from Michigan, moves to the Beaufort area, they need to staff really quickly. ReadySC helps train employees to get them up and working so that they can open that facility and get it running. Apprenticeship is a little bit longer of an approach. Apprenticeships are typically a minimum of 2,000 hours, or that equates to about a year. There can be a little bit less time than that, but DOL, the Department of Labor, requires a minimum of 6 months for an apprentice to be active in a program. But we work together with ReadySC, Apprenticeship Carolina, the technical colleges around the state to take someone from startup to 100% proficiency. What that means is someone off the street working in a different job that may not be giving them a career path, helping them to gain the skill set and the knowledge to be 100% proficient in a career path that's going to help, bring them into a living wage, help them, develop into something that is sustainable for the long term. We used to have a staff. When I came on board in June of 2020, we had a staff of 15. That is growing rapidly, which I will explain a little bit later. We now have 6 consultants serving the 16 technical colleges. You'll see the breakdown here. And as I said, I cover Aiken Technical College and Technical College of the Lowcountry. And then you'll see the breakdown visually here. I'm the green, of course, on the coast, and then up by Augusta. And on the call today, we also have Shay Sinclair. She is our new registered program specialist serving all of the technical colleges on the coast of South Carolina. Her office is at Trident Tech, but she serves TCL. And what a registered program specialist is this is someone on staff to where I, as the consultant, am primarily responsible for helping a company explore registered apprenticeship as an option. And if they decide to proceed, they move forward with me. I help them register with DOL, and then I hand it off to Shay to help the company get up and running and get them any training they might need, any resources, so that she helps essentially with the maintenance of that program once it's up and running and I've done my part. So we're really excited to have her on staff. This is a new addition thanks to some grant funding that we won back in July, which again, I will talk about later in the presentation, but I'm really excited to have her join us and be able to serve the TCL area for the first time. We actually now have a registered program specialist. So apprenticeship, we consider our process a 3D approach: discovery, design, delivery. Discovery being exactly what we're doing today, whether I'm talking to a big group of employers or one-on-one. This is where you as the employer are exploring whether or not this is the right fit for you. What is apprenticeship? Is it a workforce tool that can work for me? Will it help me with my needs? Design, if a company decides to move forward with apprenticeship, the apprenticeship consultant works hand in hand with them to help them draft their standards documents, which serve as the outline for a program that then gets registered with the Department of Labor, DOL, as you've heard me say. And then the final piece of that, delivery. When that program is registered with DOL, it comes back and they are ready to go, rocking and rolling, want to be connected to resources to source candidates to interview, all that good stuff. That's where Shay comes in. Again, it's really a 3-pronged approach to make sure that we are adequately serving companies in South Carolina and making this as detailed as possible and helping. My role as a consultant and Shay's role as an RPS, none of what we do ever costs an employer money. All of it is fully funded through the state of South Carolina. So there's no specified cost with working with a consultant and setting up a registered apprenticeship program. As part of breaking off into our own organization in 2019, we revamped our mission, our values. I won't go through this whole text here, but the key point is that we are on a mission and we are leading the charge in the state of South Carolina to bring registered apprenticeship to all employers as an option for helping them solve their workforce needs and making sure that we are creating career paths for individuals. To give you a little bit of context of what this looked like. So in 2007, when Apprenticeship Carolina was first formed, we were, as you see, severely lagging behind our competing states, our neighboring states. There's not even a comparison. And we had to speak to the growing need, of BMW, of other companies coming in and looking for these training options. What that looks like 13 years later, very, very different. You'll see that we have 34,454 apprentices, 1,089 registered programs, and 242 youth programs. So phenomenal growth. This looks very different, and we are now seen as a national leader in apprenticeship offerings and partnerships and structure. We worked with the University of South Carolina's Business School to conduct an ROI study. And some of the key things that I like to highlight from this is that we found out from this study that apprenticeship employers see a return on investment from apprenticeship as early as 5 years into their program. That return on investment is for every dollar invested, $1.26 is gained. And that ROI actually goes up as they continue to use their apprenticeship. So year 5, it's $1.26. Year 7, it's $2.15. And that ROI, that benefit was seen through all industries that we looked at in South Carolina. So it's really a winning strategy for any company and business that chooses to participate. As long as there's an apprenticeable occupation within that industry, it is a winning strategy. And from this study, we also found out that it is proven that apprentices tend to stay in a job 2.9 years longer than a traditional employee. So looking at solving some of those retention issues that tend to be a problem for a lot of employers, trying to figure out how we can keep someone on staff and not have to continue to post that position every 6 months, every 12 months, and having to continually train new people. Apprentices are there 3 years longer. And I think the mindset behind that is that when a company invests in an employee, the employee tends to invest back in the company. So what does a registered apprenticeship consist of? There are 3 big pieces here. The first piece is supervised on-the-job learning. So this is comparable to traditional OJT that some of you might be familiar with. This is at the company where the apprentice is learning the actual skills. And it is supervised. So we ask that all apprenticeships have a mentor on staff. So where that apprentice shows up to work every day, they know exactly who's training them and they're not kind of left on their own to figure it out. There is a dedicated staff member to training them when they're on the job site. This is coupled with job-related education. What this means is that there is supplemental education for the apprentice to pursue that helps them just gain a little bit more knowledge and a little bit more ability to be able to successfully pursue whatever career path they are in. That can be everything from an associate's degree at a technical college to a certificate to just a few courses. And it can even be in-house education with an employer. So say, for example, the technical college doesn't have the education program that you might need. It can be in-house. That can be safety training, orientation, anything that's going to supplement what the apprentice is learning on the job site. So for example, if it's a manufacturing facility and the vendor that makes the equipment that the apprentice is going to be working on has training videos that they have to watch, all of that counts and serves to supplement that on-the-job training piece. And then the third part of this, apprentices have to be paid and they have to receive 1 wage progression at a minimum during their apprenticeship. So what that looks like, so for example, if you have a 12-month apprenticeship, a 2,000-hour apprenticeship, it can either be time-based or competency-based. Time-based, it could look like they've completed 6 months of the apprenticeship, so they earn their wage increase, or say they've completed these 30 competencies in the list of the outline, then they can receive their wage increase. And that might even be ahead of what the time would essentially dictate. So for example, these 30 competencies might take 6 months to complete. This apprentice did it in 4 months. If the program is written as competency-based, they get to earn that wage increase early. And it gives the apprentice just a little bit more incentive to want to be productive and want to complete their program. So what is not a registered apprenticeship? It's not short-term. It's not an internship or an externship. This is, again, a minimum of a year, ideally. It is meant as in-depth training for someone to get from no skills to full proficiency in the job field. Again, like I said, it's a paid opportunity. So we can't not pay apprentices. They have to be paid. This is meant to give them an ability to earn while they learn. It is not a work-based learning program that's not registered with the U.S. Department of Labor. We, as Apprenticeship Carolina, currently only deal with registered apprenticeship for DOL. And what that means is that we have the ability to say that if someone goes through, for example, because we have Nancy and Shelby on the call today, if someone goes through a program for a CNA, that program is written almost exactly the same as a program for a CNA apprentice in Missouri or Colorado. It's the standardized skill set, same set of competencies, so that when they're awarded that national credential from DOL, we know what that looks like. And an employer sees that and they know that they were trained exactly the same as anyone else that has that credential. And that just gives us the ability to say that this program is high quality, it's standardized, and we know exactly what we're giving employers. And then, of course, apprenticeship is not temporary and it's not seasonal. This is meant to be long, I don't want to say long-term, but it's meant to be long-term employment. It's not a 3 or 6 month gig. It's meant to serve as a true training tool. Some of the benefits that employers see from apprenticeship, again, like I just mentioned, a highly skilled workforce, a standardized skill set, everyone being trained the same way. We've heard some apprenticeship employers say that their apprentices that come out of their programs tend to be better trained than people they've had on the job site for 10 or 15 years, who've been in the industry for 10 or 15 years, because they know exactly what they were trained on, they know how they were trained, and they can speak to that. They don't have to have someone come in at a full wage and help them unlearn what they might have learned elsewhere. That's not the correct way to do something. This is exactly as it's written. Like I said, reduced turnover, that extended, tenure at a company, and increased productivity. And then finally, a state tax credit, which I'll get into a little bit more detail a few slides from now. So we tend to work with all industry clusters in South Carolina that have apprenticeable occupations, but primarily we focus on high growth clusters in order to speak to the needs of employers within these industries in the state. Aging workforce populations, high turnover, inability to find skilled workers. We want to make sure that we are offering this as a tool for these companies to help solve that problem, and making sure that these companies want to choose South Carolina and stay in South Carolina. That's my economic development background speaking. So as I mentioned, a state tax credit, any company in South Carolina that pays taxes, if they participate in an apprenticeship program, they qualify for a $1,000 state tax credit per apprentice per year for up to 4 years. So if a company has 3 apprentices go through a 1-year program next year, they would qualify for a $3,000 tax credit. And that continues as many apprentices as you put through each apprentice.
For dessert? Can I please have a piece of candy for dessert?
I think I hear someone asking for candy.
Mine, sorry.
No problem. We all understand. I have a 15-month-old at home, so I get it. Another portion of youth apprenticeship of apprenticeship is youth apprenticeship. I won't get into detail too much about this today, but I do want to briefly touch on it as we are actively setting up the first youth apprenticeship program for Beaufort County School District. The first track that we're looking at is culinary, to kind of speak to the need for the hospitality sector here in the region. But youth apprenticeship looks very much like adult apprenticeship. It gives the student the opportunity to earn while they learn. They graduate high school with a national credential from DOL the same time as they're getting their high school diploma. A lot of times they go through this program. They usually start as a junior. We also allow seniors, but ideally it would be a junior. Their programs take about 2 years to go through, where they're working part-time during the school year and then full-time during the summer. And then typically when they graduate, whether they've completed a dual enrollment certificate or not, they have a good chunk of coursework completed at the technical college, if that's where the job-related education track takes place. So it really it sets them up for success. It helps them realize that there are other options outside a four-year college and $100,000 of debt. We're trying to show them that there are many career fields out here that pay really well, pay a living wage, and can give you an option. And like I said, we are in the process of setting up the first program for Beaufort County. We are in the orange on this lovely graphic. We have no current youth apprenticeship programs, so we're trying to change that. We want to make this happen here. So please, please, please reach out to me if you want to know more about youth apprenticeship. So what is available specifically to Beaufort employers? What does this look like? How can we make this work for you? We, as I mentioned earlier, won 2 fairly large grants on July 1st of this year, totaling $11.49 million. The first of those grants is the South Carolina Youth Apprenticeship Readiness Initiative. This is specifically for youth apprenticeship. It was awarded to only 14 organizations nationwide. So we were very, very, very excited to be one of those 14. And we think it speaks to the character of South Carolina and the options that we've been able to put forth through apprenticeship. It's 4.49 million over 4 years, and it has a pretty aggressive goal of getting 800 new youth apprentices and 230 youth pre-apprentices. So again, just really trying to aggressively grow the options for youth apprenticeship in South Carolina. This grant will give us marketing dollars. It will give us the ability to pay. It's not guaranteed. A company has to apply for this money, but a youth apprentice going through an apprenticeship program that has a track at the college. So both of our grants specifically only go through the technical college, TCL. They can't be utilized if the JRE is not at TCL, but that doesn't mean apprenticeship can't work for you. But specifically for these grants, they go through TCL. So when the education track takes place at TCL, the employer would have the ability to apply for that education component to be covered through grant funding. And that is a game changer. We have not had access to money like this for both adult and youth apprentice statewide. So this is a game changer, and pretty much, we have a significant level of funding, as you can see, available statewide that TCL will be able to apply for. That application opens up for us on December 1st. So it's coming, and it's coming fast. And this is going to open up a lot of opportunity for youth apprenticeship. And to complement this, we have the State Apprenticeship Expansion Grant. This is for both youth and adult. It's $6.9 million over 3 years. Same concept. We are trying to aggressively expand apprenticeship offerings, both in current industries, looking at current occupations, making sure they're up to date, meeting the needs of those industries, and new industries. Where can we expand? Where can we evolve? This is the same concept, a company looking at going to TCL for their education track. So for example, Nancy, Right at Home, has taken advantage of some of our previous grants that we've had and put apprentices through the CNA certificate program at TCL. This grant enables us to offer that to additional companies in the Beaufort area to help with that. And I believe the cost for per apprentice is $2,500. So a company can ask to be, or the TCL handles the reimbursement, but it would cover the education costs for an apprentice up to $2,500 per apprentice, which again is a huge offering that we have not had access to statewide through grants. There are a number of communities in the state that have access to this kind of funding through private investment. But now we have this ability to offer this to all of our colleges, which is just a huge, huge positive for what Apprenticeship Carolina is going to be able to accomplish over the next few years. These grants also give us money for support services, for pre-apprenticeships. Pre-apprenticeships are kind of like a boot camp, help an apprentice to get some of the soft skills and qualifications to be able to enter an apprenticeship if they maybe need a little bit of that. and support services, looking at trying to break down any barrier that is making or preventing someone from being able to access apprenticeship. Because at its core, apprenticeship serves to get people out of jobs that aren't serving them and getting them into a career path that can, improve their quality of life, get them into a living wage, help them, go through a successful career. And if there's a barrier that's stopping them from being able to do that, we want to speak to that. So that support service will help pay for things. For example, if an employee needs help with gas money for the first 2 or 3 weeks before that first paycheck comes in, that's what a support service can speak to, making sure that we are helping an apprentice access all of the resources that they can to be successful. So that was a lot of information that I shared today. I do want to give Nancy the option to talk real quick. Nancy is from Right at Home. This is a home health aid company based out of Bluffton. They have offices statewide in South Carolina and nationwide. But Nancy is special for Apprenticeship Carolina because Right at Home has put through a number of apprentices through the CNA program at TCL. And they actually have one of their apprentices was featured in a marketing video that we just put out that I can certainly send to the chamber to distribute to everyone on the call today to view. But Kimberly Speaks, who is a Right at Home employee and went through the apprentice program, was recognized as the National Caregiver of the Year for Right at Home nationwide, which I think just speaks to what Right at Home is doing as a company and what an apprenticeship can do and offer someone. So Nancy, please share anything you'd like to share that you think would be good for an employer to know, an employer that might be considering this as an option. Nancy, you're on mute.
Sorry. Hi, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks. I won't take up too much time, but there were just 2 things that I thought might be helpful. You talked a little bit about wage progression. So let me just explain how that worked for us. Okay. So Right at Home gets a number of applications every year from young gals, mostly gals. It's a female driven industry, who come straight out of high school who say, oh, I'm a caregiver. And then we'll say, oh, that's great. What kind of experience do you have? And they're like, oh, well, I cared for my grandpa. Okay. And usually what they mean by a caregiver is that they've cooked and maybe cleaned and maybe given medicine, which is a wonderful start. But that's not what we consider a caregiver. So they are primed for this type of program because what we'll say is, okay, I think we have exactly what we need for you to make you grow from caregiver to what we call personal care assistant to CNA or certified nursing assistant. And this is what we were talking about when we talked about wage progression. So when you're in the middle section of what is building your program, apprenticeship will come out and help you do this. What they do is they say, okay, you have to show that as these, in my case, caregivers are learning new skills, you are growing their income, okay, or their hourly rate. So what we did was say to these young gals coming in with at least the interest level and a little bit of experience and the desire to work for senior citizens and the disabled, to say, okay, we're going to onboard you and we are going to start you at what we call a sitter or a caregiver. And those are very basic skill sets, like preparing meals and going to get the mail and driving them to appointments and, in some cases, making sure that they don't fall out of bed. So, not necessarily brain surgery, but still you need to have attentive care. You need to have good bedside manner and the desire to do it. So we would start those folks at maybe a pay rate of $10 an hour. Okay. And then for X amount of time, let's just say in this case, maybe 3 months, we do 2 things. We sign them up for the apprenticeship program and they start their CNA classes. But we are also in the office going over things with them like customer service, like maybe thicken liquids, maybe things that are specific to their client that they've picked up, where TCL is doing the actual nitty gritty, hands-on certified nursing assistant classes. Okay. Then maybe 3 months into their program, we've said, hey, we've seen really good improvement. You've gotten great feedback from your clients. TCL is giving us great feedback. We're going to move you to what we call personal care assistant duties. Now, that's where we're moving you on to a client who needs things like bathing and dressing and maybe transfers. So we're trusting you more with hands-on care. And by the way, your pay rate is going up to, let's say, $11 an hour. So this is that wage progression that you were talking about. And then finally, once they've learned and completed all of their classes with TCL, they've taken their test, their CNA test, and they've gone through their practical exams, which is usually with a local nursing home, and they've gotten that CNA license. They can be a CNA with us. And then they're taking on much more complicated cases like working with a Hoyer lift or a trapeze that thicken liquids or a colostomy or a catheterization. And then those hourly rates are things like $12, $13, $14, $15 an hour. So I just wanted to explain how, when we were talking, or you were talking about wage progression, how that practically looks for a company, or at least a healthcare company like mine. Okay. The only other thing I wanted to mention was, how does this affect a company? Why are we doing this? Why should you do it if you're not already doing it? Well, what I can say is this. Not only do you then get to keep a great employee who has this new skill set, but that great employee tells their cousins and their friends who say, hey, I know that you've done a little caregiving for your family, but have you thought about right at home? I get phone calls every single day from people who say, I heard great things about right at home. Do you guys have that CNA program? And I'll say, yeah, we do have that CNA program. Is that something you're interested in? And sometimes they are interested and sometimes they're not. And that's okay too, because I'm still getting great references from people who really may be maybe a little bit older, may not be ready to do that, but actually probably have great skills. So it's worth it. It's worth the time and the energy. Apprenticeship Carolina and TCL, they put in so much work for you. They will work with you. You are not alone. If anyone has practical questions about how this works in the lives of the business owner or manager, whoever you decide, I'm very happy to help too, but I can't thank them enough because it really is a great fit for us. So thank you.
That was a great testimonial, Nancy. Thank you very much. And I will just speak really quickly to what Nancy was saying. And she said it without saying it. Right at Home created their own talent pipeline. And that's what this serves to do. So a lot of employers, I know that in my previous role, I spent 8 years in economic development. The number one issue became talent almost overnight. And employers said, how do we fix this? They were going to the economic development organizations, they're going to their chambers, and they're saying, we can't find skilled workers. How do we do this? And a lot of people tend to typically engage in talent attraction. Talent attraction is great. That's, putting your job on Indeed.com or ZipRecruiter, or working to promote it, maybe looking for people to move here from out of the state, but that's a Band-Aid. That's the short-term solution to a long-term problem. And talent development is the long-term solution, and apprenticeship serves as one of the tools to fix that. You are creating your own talent pipeline by continually training people. And I will say that a company does not have to hire an apprentice once they're finished with their program. They only have to put the apprentice through the program. And there is a 90-day probationary period. So if it's not working out, that's okay. But this is intended. A lot of companies do end up hiring their apprentices specifically because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to create this talent pipeline where they can stop the headache of having to continually recruit, having high turnover, not being able to find people that have the correct skill set. Well, stop looking, train them, let us help you figure out how to solve this issue. And again, what those grants that we now have help us to do is help cover that education costs, where a lot of times the employer will cover that cost, or the apprentice might have to take on that debt. This enables us to take that out of the picture and make this much more accessible for employers who want to pursue this, because they think, I have an HVAC company and I have 2 technicians who really could use that certificate from TCL and really could use a little bit more structure and training, and apprenticeship solves this issue for me. Or an electrician, or you name it, I probably have an occupation that covers it. I'm working with a company up in Aiken area for a collision center. Obviously we have a very robust CNA program at TCL with all the healthcare facilities around here. Hospitality, resorts are looking at us to try to help solve some of their talent needs. Again, this is meant at its core to solve those issues of aging workforce, lack of skill set, lack of high turnover, and this is really how that speaks to that. So I just wanted to speak on what Nancy said. She created her own talent pipeline by going through this.
And Nicole, thank you for reinforcing that. Nancy, thank you for that powerful example in action. And I know we have Shelby also from TCL, who's an integral partner in the whole framework. Before we open up for any audience questions, Shelby, could you speak a little bit about your role at TCL and how you interface both with Apprenticeship Carolina and with employers who have a certified apprenticeship program?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. We have some work going on behind us, and we're very close to the hospital. So if you hear something, that's what it is, and we're okay.
We had jets going over earlier, so
it's just big fun. So the Technical College of the Lowcountry, as a part of the technical college system, works with Apprenticeship Carolina, 1, because we see a value to our students, but 2, because we see a value to our community. So with the CNA program that I'm working with, the idea is ultimately it will develop to pre-nursing, nursing, and as we add programs at the technical college within our region, within this health sector, we'll be able to add apprenticeships. So this is following a model that was really developed very effectively with Trident, where they partnered with Roper and MUSC, and they've added additional employers because, as Nicole pointed out, a CNA is kind of a CNA. It's a state certification. There's specific requirements, and so they can all agree to that. Because my programs are on the continuing education side, we have a lot more flexibility with who we can allow into our program when we can offer those programs. So for example, with Nancy, when the first set of individuals was going through, we designed schedules that would work around their work schedule. And I actually hired an additional instructor who was going to be available so that we could do night classes, day classes, weekend classes, classes in Bluffton, classes in Hampton, Beaufort, Walterboro, so that we could get people in and get those individuals a schedule that would work for them so that they could continue working. We also work with employers in different areas who may need specific skills. So for example, our continuing education department is also working on programs in heating and air. So we have a credit side program where certificates can take approximately 6 months up to an associate's degree that's 2 years, or we can design a specific program to teach a specific skill that might take a month. It really depends on what the employer needs, and we have a lot of flexibility with that. On the healthcare side, there are certain things that you just can't do in less than 6 months. Nobody's going to become an RN in less than 6 months. And if they do, I don't let them work on you. Don't. But we can do medical assistant, pharmacy tech, a dental assistant, not dental hygienist, hemodialysis. So as, let's say, a hospital or a doctor's office, a medical practice of any type identifies a need and says, hey, we're going to need, for example, surge techs. We're always going to need surge techs. But in addition to that, we want the surge techs that we have to be able to work in central sterilization, or we want them to be cross-trained in another specific aspect. On the continuing education side, we can design that program, find the instructor, work out a schedule that will work around what the employer needs. So if the individual is already working with them, or if they want to bring new individuals in, we can help find people who are going to be qualified, who are going to get the training that they need, and then be willing and ready to work, because nobody puts themselves through this without having a strong desire to be employed in this field and to stick with it. So a lot of people, kind of as Nancy was pointing out, well, I cared for my grandfather and I think I might be good at this. If they come through our CNA program, they will know for a certainty, yes, I can do this and I'm going to keep doing it, or no, this is not for me. And we kind of take that risk of the employer finding that out on their dime, their time, as much as we can. One other thing that I would say is we're a really great resource for acquiring talent. Just as the individuals who go through the program will refer people to their employer, as Nancy brought out, we can expose individuals who might not know about your business or your field to you and say, hey, you like this. Did you ever think about working in this field or for this employer? Did you know that these positions were available if you are willing to do X, Y, and Z? And so we can also connect students or potential students with employers, and that's going to help reduce the cost of acquiring additional employees. And it adds another aspect to building that pipeline for you.
Shelby, thank you. This structure seems so intuitive and such like the kind of thing that everybody hopes would happen. Well, the good news is it is happening. I can't tell you the number of conversations I have with employers that always begin with the challenge of recruiting talent, keeping good people, and then you hear the inevitable, well, they just don't seem to teach this anymore. Well, here is the structure for great skill building, career oriented education. And it's very much a public-private partnership with a significant amount of federal funding, which is the real multiplier opportunity here that I hope every employer on the line watching live and anybody who's watching this in recording has taken note of. Nearly $12 million in federal DOL grants to help take a program that already exists to the next level in our state and in our community. And you've got great resources at Apprenticeship Carolina and at the Technical College of the Lowcountry housed here locally to help you navigate those programs. Shame on you if you're not taking advantage of this opportunity. So please reach out to Nicole, please reach out to Shelby. If you need help connecting with them, the Chamber can help you do that. We do have some time for questions. I had one that I thought I might start us with, and that's kind of reiterating a distinction, Nicole, that you made in your presentation between youth apprentice and adult apprentice. I think these terms can get a little bit jumbled up. And there are separate tracks here and separate funding streams that we need to be attuned to. One for high school students, one for adults. But could you talk to us about the profile of the adult apprentice as we know them existing currently? Their age, their education attainment level, where they're at in their lives, just to help get people a better profile of who we're talking about when we say adult apprentice.
Sure. Adult apprentice can be anyone who has graduated high school or received a GED, and that's not necessarily a requirement for an apprenticeship, but most of the time it is, but someone who's out of high school. So youth apprenticeship specifically is for high school students who have not yet received their diploma or GED, who are between the ages of 16 and 18. And then adult apprentices are anything beyond that. The typical makeup, I had someone ask this last night, and it's really hard to give characteristics to this because it can look like anything. This starts at 18 years old, and there is no age cap to this. There is no ceiling. So apprenticeship can be for an 18-year-old graduating high school who doesn't want to go to four-year college or can't afford four-year college, and quite frankly, may not even be able to afford associate's degree at TCL. And they need some sort of career pathway or option to help them do that. Apprenticeship can also be for a 40-year-old who might have lost their job during COVID, and they were working a job that this field is really, they don't see a future in this field, and they want to change tracks and they want to go get their CNA certificate. Or they want to, I think I should become an HVAC technician. Everyone's always going to need air conditioning. They have the option to change their career path. And so that's what we like about this, is it's an option for everyone. Typically, we tend to see a lot of individuals in their 20s who are trying to establish that career path, and this is an option for them, again, that gives them opportunities that they may not have had access to. But the profile of a typical apprentice in South Carolina can look very different. It all depends on industry and job. As Nancy said, a lot of CNAs tend to be females. A lot of welders, I think typically when you think of welding or engineering or manufacturing, you think of men. That's not the case. There are females in these fields, and there are a number of different ethnicities and populations and demographics. We try to speak to all of those and offer this as an option to everyone and be equitable in that aspect. Does that answer your question, Ian? I know it's not, there is no typical profile, but it is an option for everyone.
Nicole, thank you. Let's open it up. Any other questions from folks who are on the line? Hopefully the stunned silence is a good sign, because it's been such an informative discussion. As you're thinking about those questions, you can also invite you to use chat and submit them via chat if you'd like. As before we close out here, I thought maybe we'd turn back to Nancy real quick and sort of talk. I don't know how much you've been able to use the tax credits, or maybe those weren't available prior. Has that been much of an impact at all for your operation, or is this mostly just a talent strategy?
Of course, that's a wonderful benefit, but it wasn't really the driving force. Really, the problem that we're facing as an industry is that there's a huge caregiver shortage across the country. And there has been for about 10 years. And now we are facing the realization that the baby boomers are coming. They're just starting. We're seeing a lot of Vietnam veterans coming now, the ones that were disabled during the war, they're shortly thereafter. So we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg now. So really that's the driving factor, which is that we are turning business away every day. And so is every other of our competitors. So it's not just us. And what we're finding, just as information for all of you, is that caregivers in this area don't live on Hilton Head, and they don't really live in Bluffton. There's no affordable housing for them. They live in Yemassee, they live in Estill, they live in Beaufort, and they live in the outskirts. So when they want to drive to Hilton Head to, work for the retirees from New York, they want a 12-hour shift. So they can come in 3 times a week for their 12-hour shift, make their 36 hours, and then go home and do the same thing for 3 shifts for some other home care company. So they have, 70 some odd hours to make, their ends meet. They do not want to work 2 hours here, 2 hours there. And we, as well as our competitors, are giving up business where it's people who are calling and say, oh, I just need you to go in for 2 hours every morning and check on my mom, and then come back at 6 p.m. and make her dinner. Guess what? Those shifts are not getting staffed because no one's driving from Yemassee in, for just as long as it takes to drive there for those 2 hours. The caregivers are, they're working smart. They're not working hard. And there's only so many shifts you can stack in a morning for them to say, okay, go from here from 6 to 8, and here from 8 to 10, and here from 10 to 12, before they say, yeah, I'll just take a 12-hour shift so I'm not driving all over Beaufort County. And that's what's happening across the board. So you have all of these seniors who don't need 12 hours of care, but just need someone to check on them who, their family's saying, I don't live here, just make sure she hasn't fallen. And we're giving up business left and right. Well, if we had more caregivers, we might be able to offer that to people who say, well, you know what? I do drive a school bus at 8:30, but I could go check on somebody from 6 to 7 and make, make a wage every morning. So just the more people you have, it might, the things that you have out there might attract someone else. It's just that we don't have enough people to do that right now. So that's the realization of home care in the area right now. But if we just had more people, then we'd be able to staff more shifts.
I
Nancy,
will
thanks for
add,
that.
Ian.
Go ahead,
Sorry.
please, Nicole.
I want to add really quickly. I don't think I mentioned it up to this point. Apprenticeship it can serve 2 groups of people here. It can serve new employees right off the street that have never had a relationship with your company before. It can also be for existing employees. So if you have someone who is in one role, like Nancy was saying, as a sitter, and they could benefit from more education and more training to become the CNA, they are absolutely qualified and have the will to do it. You can put them through that program. If you have someone who is a janitor at a hospital, and we're focusing heavily on healthcare today. Please don't think that this is all healthcare. I do all industries. These are just Nancy is a great employer sponsor, and Shelby is my allied health coordinator. So it was kind of a nice relationship to have on the call here today as an example. But for example, a janitor at a hospital, if they want to improve their career path, they can go through a CNA program and then work at the hospital. It can look, current employees, existing employees who you want to upskill or bring into a new role, and in new employees. So it can serve both groups of people.
Great. Well, listen, this fits so closely with the Chamber's mission to promote economic prosperity that benefits the well-being of everyone in our region. This fits so well there. This is an opportunity for companies to solve one of their biggest operational challenges, keeping and retaining qualified and capable people. And it also helps expand those career opportunities for folks here in our region. So we're certainly committed to helping the apprenticeship program at TCL and supported by Apprenticeship Carolina succeed. We're looking forward to being a partner and getting this word out. Thank you all for being on the line, Nancy, Nicole, and Shelby. Also Shay as well, a member of the team based in Charleston. I think we'll adjourn it here, but if you would, right before we sign off, how should people get in touch with you, Nicole, real quick? You're the first point of contact, right?
Yes, I am. Yep. You can, I will put, if it's helpful, I had my contact information shared on the screen, but I'm going to put it in the chat real quick. My cell phone is the best way to reach me because we are in phase 2 right now, where I am on campus a couple days a week, and then I'm remote the other days of the week, due to COVID concerns. So I will put my cell phone in here as well as my email. I am pretty responsive, so please reach out to me. Send me a text message. I'm a millennial. I can text. Leave me a voicemail. I'm open to all of it, and I'm happy to help.
Great. Nicole, thank you. And for everybody else, if you have any questions about this or any other topics, things that are happening in our community, please give us a call here at the chamber. Thank you all and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Great
you, Ian.
program.
Thank you.